Well, it is 8:30, it's time for the weekly meeting of the Mitchell County Board of Supervisors. We have an agenda in front of us. Under items of note, we will put an item B, building values. And Kathy, let's see, you were here for the BBC special assessment, is that?
Yes.
We'll move you up at some point in time here, maybe.
Thank you.
Put you right with Tom,
Okay,
if you two can get along.
we play nicely.
No problem there. Thanks.
Any other additions, corrections, deletions?
I'm making a motion to approve.
Oh, excuse me, one thing, just to clarification or a change, at 11 o'clock, we'll go to the county services building to meet with the Chickasaw Board, the 2080, and then we'll go to tell you what.
Okay.
Easier to discuss things there than being in that little room, so.
Yeah.
No, so-
I made a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second
Been moved and second, further discussion, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. County attorney isn't here yet. Item 3, BBC project update and pay request for invoice. Tom, you're up.
Good morning.
And how are you today, sir?
Good, how are you guys doing? Good. Excellent. Got copies for everybody again? Pass one, please. You are writing on them. I'm gonna start writing on them before, just so you have some to write on. Pay request from Henkel. You flip to page 2. Colin Quirk completed this application. And we'll just kind of zip through it here. General conditions are their mobilization costs, insurance and stuff like that. So we got that. We've got $257,000 plus on the site work, which includes all their piping, excavation, a bunch of stuff like that. And then there's a whole stab of miscellaneous concrete work. In my mind, they've pretty much got almost all that concrete work on the outside of the building done. They've been switching around a lot to keep up because there's no building yet. Look at the next page. $1,500 for windows. Not much else in that one. Page after that, they've had to pay the down payment on a bunch of equipment, which is what the $200,000 is, and then the $35,000 for the jet mixing system. And then the mechanical is all the plumbing, water, sewer, all that stuff's all stubbed up in the building right now. The building's got its its rock floor on it, ready to go, so all the mechanical work inside there is done. There's nothing on the last page. So that is where they're at. Have you guys got any questions on that?
Sounds like everything's progressing.
It is. It has not stopped.
Do we have a motion
I'll
to
make a
pay?
motion to pay $894,141.75 to Henkel Construction.
Second the motion?
Moved and second, further discussion. Hearing none, Hoaglander.
Aye.
Wallace.
Aye.
Walk, aye, motion carried.
Okay, tomorrow's a big day, the building shows up. So we're gonna start getting that erected. They're gonna run a crew between Christmas and New Year's, it won't be a big one, but they'll keep going on stuff. So that's a big change out there. Once they get that built up, then they'll be full at it again all winter long once they get heated, so.
When do you expect to have that?
Well, we'll know tomorrow. Tomorrow's our progress meeting. At the last progress meeting, they said the minute that building shows up, they've got a bunch of guys sitting around doing nothing, so they're gonna get a whole crew out there to get stuff up. Now, you can only get so big before you're in everybody's way. So I'm not really sure how long it's gonna take. I mean, it's a big building, it's 8,000 square feet, so it's not gonna go up overnight, but, you know, it's a steel frame building, so it shouldn't take them that long, as long as everything lines up, of course. So I'm not sure. I think I'll know more today, or tomorrow when we have our progress meeting. But that's the very next thing on their agenda is get that thing up, because they're done for the most part outside, if they can be. There's a little bit more concrete work on one structure out there, but you know, the tent and the heat is drag if they get the building up, you know, keep going other stuff. At the wastewater plant, I've been talking to those boys. I'm struggling getting that sludge tank cleaned out, and it should be cleaned out today. And we'll be back online with the city by the end of the week. They've also got a crew forming out there again. tents and plastic and everything up there, so they're moving a little bit slower now because the weather's cooled up on them a little bit. We got a progress meeting with them guys as well tomorrow. So tomorrow, 9 o'clock at the BBC plant, 10:30 at the wastewater plant if everyone's shut for that. Other than that, that's about it. I will be here next week. I'll kind of let you know what's going on between Christmas and New Year's. I do not think, besides the building going up.
We're meeting on Monday.
Monday, okay, yeah, I'll be here Monday. And besides the building going up, I think most of the crews are gonna shut down most of that week, but I'll know a little bit more. You guys got any questions? Yes?
I had a person call yesterday and wanted to know about the road closed, if that's gonna continue through winter or.
I talked with my guys and they don't care, so it's up to Valence and the county to figure out if they wanna do something different out there. It's I don't need anything, I talked to Rich about, I don't need anything with my project also. It'd be up to what Valence wants. You know, they're almost done with all the big stuff. I wouldn't think they'd need that anymore, but
I wouldn't either.
I don't know for sure.
So who's gonna contact that? I mean,
Get a hold of Brenda, she's our
contact
push
us.
between it, and then we'll just find out.
Since you're part of that, the organization, you wanna ask protocol.
Well, I've got nothing else for you folks.
Kathy, you?
Yes.
It's
Morning.
Monday at the same time, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
8:30.
So Tom, it was wastewater or pre-treat that went down? The 200,000.
That's the tax from the pre-treatment plant plus 2 other change orders
Okay,
that were in the downward direction.
just general.
Yeah, but it's for the pre-treatment plant.
We got mad, I'm happy to
We're going to talk about that special assessment, and this is what Tom was referring to as needing glasses to read tiny print, but it just seemed to be easier to manage. These are numbers from back in August that Tom and I worked on together. So the first page is general summary of the costs. And then in the next 2 pages are broken down into the pre-treat and the wastewater treatment project. But you can see that it's right now 16.8 million. So we have contingency built in, that's not been touched. And we have 200,000 that you saw from the change order today. So we're in good shape with that as a general number. Hi, Barb. Yes. I wanted to talk through this special assessment petition. For a recap, when we talked about how this infrastructure was going to be funded, the company made the decision that they did not want to do a payment in lieu of taxes. They wanted it to show up on their assessment, on their taxes, and so the way that will happen is through a special assessment. We worked with Yegi Colby, who did the assessment plat, and then this is John Danos' work as to, in a normal assessment process, you can only assess up to 25% of the project costs. So obviously, we're assessing 100% of the project costs minus the tax increment. So this is a special assessment district set up only around these 2 projects. It relates to both sets of improvements, the improvements at the wastewater treatment plant as well as their pre-treat. If you look through this agreement, the blanks, I thought John was going to fill those in because we were talking about that, but on the first page, and Lowell, you might want to check these, but I think the date of the private development was July 24th, 2012. Oh, they're in there? Okay, great. I wasn't sure. And then June 18th. And then the next number again is that, do you have that 16,836,000?
Yes.
Great. The only, so the way this will work is, and I saw a note from Amy that the building is going to be assessed on January 3rd. They'll do a walkthrough. Now that doesn't mean that she'll have an assessment January 4th. I suspect it will take a period of time before that. But we are optimistic that we have been very conservative in our number, thinking that would come in at $3 million, and we expect that to be higher. We don't know what that number will be. But until that number, the 3 million is, as you may remember back, those taxes will start flowing this fall from an agreement that they said that it came, the first 10 million came on the tax rolls January 1 of 2012. And so, 13, January 1 of this past year. So the first taxes will be this fall. And so that was voluntary minimum assessment agreement that was put in place, but we expect that it could be higher. The way this will work is you will look every year. What you don't have with you are the schedules of your bond payments. And there was an email yesterday between Jeff and John Danos and myself that Jeff's going to work on those. Have you issued the bond, the second set of bonds? Okay. So we expect that there will be a cleanup bond issue, probably in June or July. Is that when everything should be done, Tom?
No, it'll be, they got a late start at the pre-treating plant because Valent couldn't get the
Right.
agreement going. So, I mean, my guess is that we're gonna have payments all the way through, October, November. But
Okay.
we'll know
Next year.
real good where we're at.
Okay.
Of next year.
Yeah.
2014. At some point, so anyway, at some point, we'll need to do a third and final bond issue. Some of this is related to the fact that one of the issues was tax exempt and one issue is taxable, and we can only go slightly over tax exempt status. I think it's maybe 10%. So there's some catch-up we'll be playing at that time. So once we have all of those bond payments in place, once we know those schedules, what you'll do, Barb, I suspect, is you'll look at the bond schedule, you'll look at the tax increment that's coming in, and then there's that worksheet on Exhibit D. And I think number 4 is really supposed to be number 2 minus number 3, because you're taking the assessed value of the property and subtracting it, the base value from that. So I think John just made a mistake there that I didn't catch at the time. So every year you will do this calculation. You'll give it to the company. So that, so this should be 2 minus 3, not 1 minus 2. Because 1 is the date, so I think that was just a mistake. And then the assessment shows up on their fall tax payment. I guess special assessments are always due in the fall. So this is a draft.
Isn't it due in May
No,
for you to?
I have to have
Work
by
it.
May 31st to
Right.
put them on the fall taxes.
Right.
So
31st.
that schedule works though, doesn't it? That you'll know the tax increment, you'll know
Yeah,
the
because I
schedule.
already know, like, for the next budget year already, just a guesstimate,
Mhm.
get what I need
Okay,
for bond payment.
for fall taxes. I'll just make myself a note, thank you.
So it
I
has to be
just wanted to
certified
make that
Yeah,
clear.
certified to the treasurer by May 31st, yeah.
Right,
Okay,
and if you miss that, then we're done.
Yeah, gotta wait a year.
okay. Well, you'd have to play catch up, but.
Right. But I mean, it's
Right.
just a one time.
So this is a little time consuming, but not a great deal. But it's the way we felt, having chatted about this, that would be most palatable to the company, most fair and most transparent. That they'll see what their tax increment is, they'll see what the bond payment is. We'll know at the end exactly what their, what that schedule is. And then each year, that would show up on their taxes. This is written as an 18-year agreement, and that's because Jeff has had the bonds being paid off after 18 years. Now, what he has to look at is this third payment, this third bond, if he's going to do the same thing. We talked with the company always about this being a 20-year project. So that, a decision. I'm sure you'll want the bonds paid off as quickly as you can. In that, so the difference between 18 years and 20 may not make be a big deal, but if you want something different, we should probably talk about that before this goes.
What was the original agreement? 20 years, wasn't it?
The original is 20 years of tax increment.
Well, really, it doesn't matter to us, does it? I mean, they're basically paying all of the expenses. I mean,
Exactly.
it's just, we're a pass-through, so.
Right.
I mean, if they want 18 or 20.
And I'm not sure why Jeff did, I think he did 18 years. Do you remember, Barb? I haven't looked at it for a while, and I didn't see this last.
It might make it on if we ever get close to our limit, right? Yeah. What?
If we don't get close.
No, but if we ever did, that would be the only reason, right? If we ever got, our debt would be less each year.
Correct.
And it would be, so if you ever got close to the county's debt limit, that would be the only difference. And otherwise, that doesn't matter, they're paying everything anyway, what
Right.
I care if it's 18 years.
Right.
Well, and the value should start catching up too, of the whole plant or whatever.
You mean, the assessment goes up,
Mm-hmm.
one would expect.
Yeah, I mean, we're hoping.
Right, right. So, are there any questions about this? This has not gone to the company. We will, I'm not sure if it will wait until we get the assessments, the bonds, just that formality of Jeff putting that in there. But we did want to bring this to you. It will have to be approved. So, if you have no further changes,
Well, Mark, did you have a chance to review it?
Lowell just handed it to me right now. So
Do you want to review
I
it?
would like to review it,
Well,
yeah, well, there's no
I-
action
yeah.
needed today. This is strictly
Yeah, I'm
for
gonna take this.
information only.
Print out our note.
But I thought if there were if you had some questions, or if you, this 18 versus 20, you could maybe check on that, Barb. Thinking back, I don't remember seeing the schedule that it was 18 years. And sometimes it's a fact that if you go out 20 years, I mean, it just doesn't make sense to go out 20 years. It just makes more sense to pay it off when you can, but we should probably check that out and make that, make that decision.
Well, the TIF sunsets in 20 years,
Correct.
so, yeah, so there would be 2 years that,
So the reality is, it could be that you could continue to collect the TIF after their payment is, their payments are all made.
that would be the other thing.
You just have to certify that you need the money.
Oh, well, that's a long ways down the road.
It is a long ways down the road.
I might not be here by then, but.
It is a long ways down the road.
Take good notes.
So if you have any questions, please feel free to call me or call John, and you will, again, at some point in the future, see a resolution. Mark, please, take the opportunity if you have any questions.
When would you like us to put this on the agenda for?
Well, and this is just a procedure. Do you want to sign it first before the company signs it? Traditionally, we've been doing it, I think they sign it first, and then it comes back to you with their signature on it. And we all know they don't move really quickly. So I'm guessing February.
I can send you an email on what I'm projecting
Okay.
already from the valuation that we have got.
Mhm.
And then, then we can take that against the payment,
Sure.
so then you're gonna know already.
Right, that'd be great. I mean, at least we'll know the first one for next fall. And,
Because with this 95% rollback too.
right.
For a little bit. too.
But you'll be made whole on the extra 5%, right?
Yes.
Well, I don't know. I'm
Say that.
sure they would never say that if it wasn't true.
At least for the first 2 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great. So if you don't have any questions, I will wish you all a Merry Christmas and see you in the new year.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's then, if there's no other questions here, let's go to item 2, County Attorney General discussion.
I just have a couple things before I get what's on the agenda. This is one I don't think Shannon's familiar with, but it's going to rear its head eventually, and eventually the supervisors are going to have to decide what to do. Iowa Code Section 598.13 That's the code section that talks about health insurance. And that's the one that says when a person voluntarily terminates their employee relationship with the county, they can continue to take coverage until they're 65. Well, what's gonna happen is, I think Medicare eventually is gonna get to what, 67 and a half. And obviously, the code was written, what it meant was, you know, you can take insurance coverage until you're 65, and then you can go right on to Medicare. Well, now there's going to be a gap then when somebody turns 65, you know, for 2.5 years, they're going to have to go out and buy their own insurance. And we've talked about this before, and the supervisors have never really decided what to do because the issue has really never come up. I'm just saying it's going to sometime. Do you want to continue to allow them to continue coverage until they're Medicare eligible, or say the code says 65, that's when we're going to stop. So that's not something you have to do now. Just be aware of that at some point in time, some employee's going to turn 65, or past employee, and they're going to say, I need to continue on the county insurance, or you allow them to or not.
And they're paying for it.
They're paying
But
for
they're
it,
affecting our rates.
but they're affecting your rates, which may be a positive thing or it may be a negative thing depending on their health.
598 routine,
Yes.
it's in the Iowa code.
Yes.
Is that administrative?
No, that's Iowa code section.
Okay.
And that's the one that says if a, city, state, county employee retires, they can continue under the coverage by paying, the costs until they turn age 60. And I've asked the AG's office about that. Does that mean you have to stop at 65, or you can continue it on until 67 and a half? And they say, well, it's kind of up to you. We don't know what it says. So they said, they say exactly the same thing that I did. We know what the intent was, but is that for the legislature then go ahead and fix it and stay until they're Medicare eligible? So they said, I think the county's absolutely okay. If the county says at 65 you're done, you're done. I think they said, I also think if the county says you're okay until, 67 and a half, the county's okay that way too. Now, the only risk,
It gets back to what Shannon just said.
Yeah.
If they're healthy, that's fine. If they're not, that's not a good thing.
well,
And
I
you
would,
can't
I would,
pick and
I would not,
choose.
no, you
Yeah.
can't pick and choose. You can't base your decision on that. It's-
No, you can't, but you
No.
can base your decision on whether you allow
Yeah.
to stay on
Right.
that. And
Right.
you don't have to specifically say it's Stan or me.
Yeah, you're just
Right,
gonna
just
have to
in
say,
general.
we allow you to stay on
Right.
until 67 and a half, or at 65 you're done.
This week, the policy is this, next week, we change it.
America's not gonna like that.
We need
Keep them
a, we need a
busy.
6-month advance notice.
And the thing is, like I've also told you before, you can't find a future board of supervisors. So you can say, okay, this person we're gonna allow this person to stay on, and then it's a new board of supervisors later on, and they say, we've now changed our minds, we're not gonna allow. And then, because the code doesn't say 67 and a half, I think the board of supervisors is absolutely all right saying 65. And like I said, it's not something that you need to talk about, decide now, but just have that in the back of your mind that at some point in time it's going to come up and you're gonna have to address it. Second thing is Mark Evans versus Mitchell County. Carlton has filed a motion for summary judgment, and if you want me to leave it here so you can take a look at it, that's fine, it's up to you. If not, I'm just gonna take it back with me. Basically, what a motion for summary judgment says, even if the facts are exactly as the plaintiff says they are, based upon the law, the plaintiff can't recover. And so what, if you want me to leave this here, like I said, you can look at it. Basically, what he's saying is, even if everything Mark Evans says is true, Mitchell County was under a state of emergency, under the Torts Claim Act. Mitchell County has immunity, you can't be sued under this situation. So he's filed the motion, the defendants will have an opportunity, or the plaintiff will have an opportunity to respond. And then I'm assuming the court will set it for hearing, and then the court will decide whether this can go on or not. But he really did a nice job on it. Very.
I'd be interested in looking at it.
Okay, I'd like to get this back.
I'll drop it off there if you can look at it. One of us can drop it off in your office.
Oh, and the reason I think Mark may have his payable in 18 years, you understand this better than I do, Barb. The district goes for 20, and if we've already created that district, right? I mean, it's gonna end on
This
such.
is a separate project.
But it's a TIF project, right? That can only be good for 20 years.
Well, each project is 20 years.
Yeah.
Within the urban renewal plan.
Okay, so I'm thinking maybe it started on such and such a date, but we really didn't get the bonds issued till such and such a date. And so there's only 18 years left within that 20, and that's why you say they have to be paid off.
Well,
within
it's when you
18.
certify, and we start
Yeah.
certifying already.
And we've already started certifying, right? That's why I'm saying those bonds
You
probably have to
certified
be
debt,
paid
that's when
off.
20 years starts.
Yeah, so the 20 years have probably already started. They've got, the bonds have to be paid off in 18 to get within that 20 is what I'm thinking. I could be wrong on that too, but. I will take a look at this, just kind of so I'm familiar with it. John Vanos is our attorney, so he should be protecting the county pretty well, but I always like just to look it over, you know, just so when somebody asks me a question, I'm not totally in the dark on it.
Well, it never hurts to have another set of eyes on it.
No, just like.
And I can send you that
Yeah.
email I'm sending Kathy to show.
Yeah, I was
you
gonna
know.
stop in and talk to you about it when I left today too, so. And then the third thing is that resolution. If you sent me a copy of that ordinance, I didn't see it, so if you could resend it.
Yeah, I gave you a paper copy. I think Mary picked it up
Okay.
late last week.
Okay, probably sitting on the desk.
That's why I wondered, I didn't know, remember if you got one of those, but I know you were gone, so.
Yeah, maybe I got one.
Did we actually have an ordinance, or did we just have the proclamation that
Well,
we rescind?
what we did is, we did a new ordinance, which allowed, I think it was you, after consulting with the engineer, to declare an emergency session. That was the new ordinance, which we didn't think we would use until the winter time, because it was made late. Had to do with snow emergencies, but it didn't limit it to snow emergencies. So we passed that new ordinance. That's the ordinance I was asking Lowell
Yeah.
about, because I didn't read it
But
right.
basically, we just,
Yeah, you can just rescind it by
Re-
resolution.
yeah, rescind,
Right.
I mean, we wouldn't rescind the ordinance, we just
No.
rescind the,
We should rescind the emergency, right, correct. Yeah,
do we have a motion to, since it's on the agenda,
I'll make a motion to
rescind the.
rescind the
rescind the emergency,
emergency.
state of emergency.
I'll second that.
Then moved in second, further discussion. This is basically rescinding the emergency proclamation that floodwater damage occurred on May 19th, and the emergency was declared on the 21st of May of this year.
And Engineer Brum, you're fine with that?
Yeah, I think
I mean, we've got everything
we've got things closed that still need to be closed, and yep.
signs up and, okay?
I'm not saying things won't pop up in the spring that we didn't find from the flood yet, because there's probably so much hidden stuff that we won't know about, but I mean, that's any year.
But I
So,
mean, we'll have proper signage at that time. I mean, really the problem here was that we didn't know where a lot of the areas were. We didn't have signage. We
it was
didn't
too
have-
much to cover for one day to try to find everything, so it was better to,
Well, then we ran out of
Yeah, yep.
barricades and equipment.
Yep.
And we were borrowing from other counties, so.
yep.
Further discussion? Hearing none, Paulus.
Aye.
Oaklander.
Aye.
Walk. Aye. Motion carried.
Anything else?
Does anybody know where we're at with, I don't necessarily want to say lawsuit, but the rural improvement zone, is that still waiting to bounce back to us, or, you know, the one that,
It's not in our lap.
you know, that got filed in court, and we'll have to get a hold of,
Last thing I heard, it got dismissed. Or was,
Oh, the lake deal?
yeah,
That got dismissed.
so nothing,
It's done, it's over with,
oh, okay,
at least for now.
oh, okay. Well, yeah, because I mean,
Until we see if there's any use in reapplying or not, so, yeah, that's done.
no, I didn't, I mean, nobody reported to the board, I don't think that, that got dismissed.
No, that was dismissed.
Okay. All right,
Everybody wants to be good neighbors.
okay.
that's probably a good thing.
Anything else?
Well, it's nice to know if things are settling down.
Winter just started, Joel.
They haven't settled down, it's just, you just have one less.
Yeah.
You don't have plenty of
We're
them.
gonna have a truce for Christmas.
That's a good idea.
Christmas tree.
But, and you're
World
meeting
War.
next Monday?
Yes.
So that, will that be on the 23rd and the 30th then?
31st.
But the third, so you will meet New Year's Eve, but not Christmas Eve?
We're closed the 24th, but we're open a half day on the 30th.
Okay, so we're 23rd and 31st. Okay, got it. Anything else?
Nothing there. Thank you, Kaylee.
You bet. Thanks,
Item 4, Sheriff Chambers.
Public hearing.
Oh, okay. We do have a public hearing scheduled for 9 o'clock for demolition and deconstruction of the courthouse. We did get bids in last week. Basically, the bid was $230,000.
141.9, I think.
231.9.
Okay.
An addendum of 25,000 to remove the cupola.
Alrighty,
That was the whole-
I'm sorry, where is it?
First one.
Okay, 231.9.
And that's
And
the,
that was the base bid, and there's also an addendum for $25,000 that we would act on at this time, whether or not we wanted to accept the $25,000. Supervisors, did you have any comments, written or oral?
I passed out the survey for the cupola. Here's all, I don't think you have that yet. People in favor of saving the cupola was 41%, and if anybody else wants a copy of that. They felt it should be paid, not county expense, it should be privately paid. And I spoke in regards to the cupola and then regards to the contract with G, the extra items. I've marked what, the yellow items is what the contractor would still have to take out. I talked to Penny, the Historical Society will pay Dave Randall, and I talked to Dave Randall, and he said he would take out everything on the list except for the yellow items, which are structural.
Is this the Historical Society or the Preservation?
Well, actually, I think the money will come from the Friends of the Courthouse, that extra money they had raised. So they're going to pay Dave Randall for the Historical Society for the preservation of the
Private
items.
entity will pay for Dave
You know,
Randall's
so it'll be for the Historical Society. These items will all be,
It's kind of confusing who's who anymore.
I know. Well, that's the information that Stan had asked me to get, is that Dave said he's willing to do it. Deadline, he would like till after the first of the year, maybe the first week.
no, I have to take that up with the contractor for
That's
the award.
Yeah, it really isn't up to us, it's up to the contractor to, because this is now part of the, or will be part of the contract if we award it, so then it'll be up to the contractor to give the okay to the group to get what they want in a timely manner, and then, like you say, these three items, again, you'd have to work with the contractor. I mean, everything will have to work through it, but at least you're able to get the other items on your own.
So just the items that are highlighted here is what they're looking for now.
From the contractor, because they're structural.
Right.
The rest of the items, they're going to get on their own.
Right.
I mean,
They'll
Dave
get
is
now.
going to be able to go in and take them on his own without the contractor. These are the ones that the contractor's going to have to basically save for him, because they're,
Oh, wait a minute, now is this gonna
Yesterday-
cost us extra money? Or, because I saw the letter from Don, that the contractor is going to reduce that amount base bid if he doesn't have to go in and peel all this stuff out. Now, you're
Right.
asking to take off structural beams, compromise those big trusses up there by getting those two wooden beams, the signed and dated ones.
no, they're not taking them.
No, they're not taking those out. That's, just if they can salvage them, they would like them when the contractor takes down the building.
Oh, okay. So when it gets pulled down, nobody has to go in and actually.
Nobody has to prop anything up or anything.
All right.
This is just
Yeah.
Dave
Don't wanna
Randall's
add
gonna
to
go in and get
the
everything
cost.
except for the yellow stuff, and with the yellow stuff, if we can get it from the contractor in his process, great.
I think you
No
probably been more
special-
than willing to work with you on that.
No
And-
special
And like you
consideration.
say, that Don is to contact the contractor after the bid is let to see how much he will reduce the cost.
And he's.
And that would have to be a change order then.
Right, and he was, from what Don said, he's more than willing to talk about it.
Right, but we cannot do that right now.
So, we want 2 wooden beams.
The written parts for sure, not the whole thing. The whole thing's would be nice.
The top part, right. And some of the wooden pegs, not all of them, because I don't know how you'd ever, you might get a pail full. And then the Italian brackets,
Not all of them.
there's plenty in there. I guess I don't have a problem with that. So, this.
Okay. Auditor Tesh, did you have any comments, written or oral?
We had received an email from Kurt Meyer yesterday about, I think it's pretty much the same thing that Penny has supplied to me.
We'll open it up to the public. Does the public have any comments that they want to make at this time?
Well, I got a question about that financing for the new courthouse.
Can you introduce yourself?
Oh, Dave May. I got a question about last meeting about TIF being used for the courthouse.
Okay.
Now, is that increment taxing from the windmills in Sanansker and Riceville's district?
Yes.
Well, I'm opposed to that. The courthouse doesn't do any economic development. It doesn't create any jobs. Is there a TIF district? Is Osage in that district for the windmills?
Basically, the windmills are have the most value that, how do I want to put it? They're the only entity in the county that has substantial value that we could utilize.
What I'm getting at is there's a TID, a district set up for the TIF. Is that encompassing Osage or not?
The TIF district that the windmills are part of is every road in Mitchell County.
So it is
Plus-
countywide.
It is totally every road in Mitchell County plus
All county property.
all county property.
You know, we need that money in Sanansker and Riceville school districts not to have a courthouse that creates no jobs.
We are putting money into the roads and that in the St. Anselm.
But you're still taking away from the windmill. That's why I'm against TIF for the wind. If we're gonna do this courthouse, this whole debacle thing is what I consider it, then every taxpayer should pay equally. And by using the windmill money to build a courthouse, it's unfair to Riceville and St. Ansgar. Right, St. Ansgar wants to build an elementary school. This courthouse is taken away from that.
How is the courthouse taken away from it?
Because you're using the windmill TIF money, which could be for the
You can-
elementary.
we
They can
cannot use
still
it for-
use that though to borrow money. The schools can. Because they can take the total valuation. So that's
Okay.
the regular valuation plus the increment valuation, add the two together and they can use that to borrow for the
Well,
schools.
What I'm saying though is you're gonna borrow that for the courthouse as well though.
That's totally separate though. That's based on a different value. I think maybe
Yeah,
if you
you
want to
can-
talk to me sometime, we can go
Okay.
sit down and talk about the different ways you can,
Well,
TIF.
you know, we talked before about the voters being bullied and we never really had a referendum that specifically, you know, for me personally, I'm for not even building a courthouse. I'm for either leasing office space or building an office, not a replica of a courthouse that we have. We're adding 8 pillars, a cupola on a new courthouse when we're discussing what to do with the old cupola. Put the old cupola on a new courthouse. Don't even put a cupola on a courthouse. Why build a replica? A replica is meaningless. The ruins, the Colosseum in Rome is falling apart. Are we going to tear it down and build a new one and make it look like it's ruined? The Leaning Tower is going to tip over. Are we going to build another Leaning Tower? Build an office building. Lyle School District built. They took it to the voters and they finally got the cost down to $6 million. Okay? We're going to build a $12 million courthouse. We need 1/4 the size of the Lyle School.
Where do you come up with your $12 million?
$7 million.
Is there a time limit on this now?
7 million plus 5 million is 12 million. That's
How
the
do you come
courthouse.
up with 7 plus 5?
The increase interest. We had to vote on the bond, it was between 5 million and 3 million. That's what we had to vote on for the interest, for the whole project. So that's 12 million, that's 7 and 5.
Okay.
That's 12 million, that's what the total cost of this courthouse is gonna be. When it's 1/4 the size of Lyle School. It's office building, I'm an electrician, it's power and data. The majority of people that talked to me were in favor of the Washington School. Should have been redesigned and redeveloped, put power and data in.
We've gone way.
I know
beyond
you
that.
have,
We've gone way.
I know
beyond
you
that
have,
now,
but
so-
you guys gotta come up with a way not to use TIF, not to take from St. Ansgar and Riceville. Make every taxpayer pay equally on this project.
Thank you. Anybody else have a comment? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing then. And do we have a motion to approve awarding the bid for demolition and construction of the courthouse?
I'll make that motion.
What do you have? Do you have it
And
as?
my motion is to approve the base bid and reject the alternate.
Okay, that's what I needed to know. Do I have a second? I will second that. It's been moved and seconded. Been moved and seconded, further discussion. And I guess the further discussion we could have is what we just talked to previously on allowing, so that can be part of the official minutes or whatever that we would allow. Okay, Bookbinder,
Aye.
Walk, aye, Paulus. Motion carried. Okay, now we can go to,
Good morning, I'll move quickly.
you don't have to.
November fees.
The November fees were $4,184.11. We keep on getting all kinds of concealed weapon permits out there.
Still?
Still following the law, Joe.
I can send them.
Yeah, it's taken off. Our ability to deny them is not quite as brings it forward.
You really haven't had any problems though with them yet, have you?
I've revoked a couple, suspended a couple.
No, but I mean, people that have them, you haven't had any problems with, have you?
No, other than I've had to revoke a
Yeah.
couple, but no, for the most part, pretty responsible.
You approve them.
Majority of them are, yeah. Those that have prior felony convictions or otherwise aren't qualified usually don't come down and ask, so, yeah, they get approved. Yeah.
Do I have a motion to,
Make a motion to accept the sheriff's report and payment.
yeah,
I'll second it.
been moved and second, further discussion? Hearing none, Paulus.
Aye.
Bookbinder.
Aye.
Walk, aye, motion carried. The conversation that I had with you yesterday was Jeff
Yes, we talked a little bit, Stan and I did yesterday about possibly posting a reward for information on these 8 burglaries that we had over a series of 2 or 3 nights. We can take some surveillance video that one of the victims was able to provide to us, post it, news media, on our website, YouTube, wherever we need to, try and generate some tips in the case. We may or may not pay the reward out, but it might be something that would generate some interest.
How much reward are you taking?
It's Christmas time. $1,000, you know, that'll get people.
I'd go along with that.
You know,
And if we can-
like I said, we may or may not pay it out, but,
And the thing to do is, you probably weren't part of this conversation here a couple, 3, 4 years ago when we had some of our gates on these Class C roads. And we offered a reward at that time. And basically, the county attorney, we would pay the county attorney and he would write it on his account. That way it does not become a public document that anybody, that way it stays anonymous.
yeah, however you wanna handle it.
Yeah, I mean, that,
I just want
because
the
a
information.
lot of people are not gonna wanna come forward if,
Sure, however we wanna structure it, I'm fine with, and get the word out.
were you on the board at that time, Joel?
Say it again, Stan?
The county attorney was gonna write the check. I mean, we would pay the county
Yes.
attorney for the reward, and then the county attorney, because his check is not a personal,
Yeah.
it's not a
Public document.
public document out of his trust account or whatever.
Yeah.
Do we need a motion or anything to approve that, or?
We have it on the agenda?
No. No, sure.
Well, we do have a sheriff's report. We've never had a problem before on that. I don't know that we would.
I'll do a motion to approve $1,000 reward to be posted and paid through the county attorney's funds for the 8 break-ins.
I'll second that.
It's been moved in second that we attempt to
Did you want something
motivate the
that's-
public to come forward with any leads and that.
That day you want to.
Where would these at? Do
Well, that mostly,
I need to get a dog?
what's that?
Do I need to get a dog?
Yeah. Good dog, Joel.
Cut
Now,
that out of there. I don't want my wife seeing that.
you're safe.
You're gone.
Mitchell, Stacyville, Harry Meyer.
Lives in the county,
Yeah.
widespread.
Yeah, 2 nights. I had extra deputies out in the following 2 Saturday nights. Didn't have any more, I haven't had any since, so.
But if you have a YouTube website, I mean, I have over 300 followers on Facebook, and I will be glad to post that video. I'm sure other people would. That would be something you actually could do, Penny, that would be productive.
She's good.
Yeah, Jeff's kind of my IT guy, so I'll let him know.
Email it and I'll post the link on mine. And Stan and I, that's what we did. We got like 100 people just on the cupola survey. So.
We'll give it a shot.
Yep, we'll give it our best
You
shot.
can put it on the county website, too.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Okay. Be good.
yeah, if we can get the word out, well, like you say, somebody might recognize how somebody walks, how they move, you know.
The clothes.
Somebody might already know.
Yep.
$1,000 enough to get a dog.
And make sure we put it that it's anonymous and all calls should come into your office, correct?
They won't be anonymous. I mean, it's all recorded. So, yeah, they can come into my office. I'll
Yeah.
deal with
Okay.
it. Yep, that's it, that's the best.
I watch it.
I can handle it.
Call on yourself.
We'll work through that. A couple other things real quickly. IRS allowable reimbursement for mileage is 56 cents a mile, down from 56.5. So, I don't know if the board has to take action on that, or if we need to charge. I don't know what your process is there.
Our motion at that time was to follow whatever the federal rate was.
And that changes the 1st of January?
January.
So then we changed
the annual.
Yeah. Because it was going up and down all over the place, and we were jumping around with it.
Okay,
The auditor said, why don't you just follow the federal rate?
okay, that's what we'll do January 1. Next item I have is a continued update on some of our communication system, and I asked Ginger to come this morning. We need to update our voice recorder for our 911 system. And good work on Ginger's part, I think she's found a way to pay for it. That doesn't affect my budget. Way to go, Ginger.
There's 2 pieces of paper there. The first one is a quote for the recorder with just no maintenance. The second one is with a 5-year package. And I think you're okay with having it without the maintenance, correct? The 23,000 bid?
I am. I talked to our dispatch captain and also Jeff, handle some of that in-house stuff. We just don't see a lot of maintenance issues with this equipment. And so to spend 18,000 or whatever it is, I think that.
Oh, it doubles.
Well, it doubles, but the maintenance agreement for 5 years is $11,200.
Yeah.
I think that's a waste of money. If they're selling us good equipment to begin with.
Yeah, and we really haven't had any, other than lightning strike,
And
which
that'll be
is
an insurance issue.
Right.
I'm all right with the lower bid.
of the 23,000. And what it is, through 911, through my commission, I'm eligible to get $50,000 a year through grant writing. And so I already have a project in motion right now, so I can't apply for this one until after March, the end of March, because I'm in a process right now. But I haven't spent all of my money this year. So as soon as my project's complete, if you guys okay it, then I could apply for another grant, which would pay half of that 23,000, so it would be 11,995. So it would pay half that amount. So then if the board would pay then, or you guys would pay the other half, what would happen is I could funnel it through, I say I funnel it through 911, but what happens is, according to this agreement, half of it has to be paid when you order the equipment. So up front, you guys would have to cover the $11,995, and then it has to be paid for. So you pay for the whole thing, but then I get reimbursed for half of it, and I would reimburse you guys back then the $11,995. So I can't pay for all of it, but I could reimburse you back half of it. And this is something that has to be done, because if we don't get the recorder, you can't record the 911 calls, you can't record any traffic, and we're upgrading all to the 911, NG 911, the internet, all of that, and so you have to upgrade your recorder. So it's not like you don't have to pay for any of it, but I can cover half of it. I can get that to cover half of it. Maybe we can work with Eventide that they would wait, and not expect half of it the day you order it, and wait until it's completed, knowing that we're getting a grant. And that's something we could talk to them about.
When were you getting that?
Huh?
When were you getting that?
Well, if we can get it done and installed and paid for by June 30th, we could do it this year yet, because then that allows me, starting July 1st, to get another $50,000 grant. And I know that I have to save some back I'll have to get a new SQL and a new server for the main station and for me, but then that still frees up some money. If there's something else that comes up within the next year, I'll have another $50,000. But it's one way to pay for at least half of it. So you have a month or so to think about it, but I bet you they might work with us.
When was our last upgrade? How long did this?
I bought the recorder, the last recorder was 6 years ago. So,
Probably done, huh?
well, yeah, I mean, it's not, with everything changing and going to the internet and to ICN and all that, you have to. Yeah, but it's a way that I can at least get half the money for it. But it all has to run through 911. So the only thing here is that you have to pay, I'm just gonna say, you gotta pay it all up front, but I'll get half the money back to you. That's a way to, and 911 funds will pay for that, so. And so if we're looking at it for this year, just so you know, in March, we could send the
I'll second the
thing
motion.
in, and then,
That's
as long as we can get installed before June 30th and the bill's paid.
23.
23,990.
Yeah, if that's the one you wanna go with.
Yeah, let's do that. And if you can get them to whatever.
I talked to the state this morning, so it's doable.
Thanks for getting this the other half back.
Yeah. So I'll get the check and then I'll just turn it over to the sheriff's department, because that's how it'll come from, and then he can,
Yep.
you know,
Get it on time.
yeah.
So
Okay.
you're paying us on the budget.
Or it can come out of your budget too, but just so you know that the down payment, then you can talk to them and see if they'll work it out. When you order it, half of it has to be paid.
That work wasn't quite as good as
Or the county's budget, and then I can reimburse the county's budget, but,
We'll talk about it.
we'll get it figured out.
okay.
No more shakedown between the departments. Here's that.
When I see your hands against the wall.
And maybe they can work with you on down payment, but that's something I can do, so.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Further discussion? Hearing none, vote please. Opposed?
Aye.
Aye, motion carried.
And one last item for you, I'm gonna give you another quote on IT stuff. A letter that you received, Shannon just got it recently, but Stanley already had it a couple of months ago on the Shield software, and software that we currently use will be outdated now June 31st, no longer supported. This is the latest software that takes the place of what we currently use. Look it over, develop some questions, and we can talk further at the meeting.
Is this what we talked about putting in the next year's budget?
Yes, yeah. I mean, all this IT stuff is expensive. We don't seem to last long. They will allow us to pay for it over a 3-year period. That's good. But look it over. What we currently have will no longer be supported June 30th, so.
Well, we're not the only county that's gonna do this. I mean, just the other supervisors I've talked to, this is good.
Do you have line items in your budget basically for this type of thing, so that?
No, currently it's coming out of like radio maintenance, new equipment, that type of stuff.
But I mean, it is in your budget, but it's not, you're basically pulling it out a different
Right.
area.
Yes.
Maybe, no, maybe that is something here on this next budget year that you should be setting up a reserve account or whatever that, like you say, that if this is a 6-year thing, that every year some monies could be set aside so that it doesn't get hit, boom. When I say we can talk about
Computer
that.
maintenance.
Like a replacement plan account or something?
Yeah,
I think that's a good idea anymore. It seems to be this coming up more and more often.
because you're not only gonna have this, you're gonna have other pieces of equipment or that have a certain lifestyle. I mean, we might as well have that right in the budget so we kinda have a halfway idea where.
Right.
And we can call it restricted funds.
IT or something.
I can make a new line item for you.
And an IT line item, and then you'll have a fund separate too? Is that what you're saying?
We probably do his budget first. I know, I think down the road, when we get a real IT person in, then he can have an IT budget, because then it's more for everybody, for the whole county, not just,
Yeah, it's tremendously expensive. Every time you pick up the phone and talk to somebody at Microsoft, it's $50. Just to talk to them people. Also along the same lines, real quickly, the IT room essentially that we have at the sheriff's office, it's back in the salad port area, it's pretty much full. So if we have new equipment coming with the new courthouse, we have another room already picked out that we'll use at the sheriff's office for that. It's down near the training room. The other one's just full, and there's some issues with the dust and temperature control and stuff like that in there.
Yeah.
Apparently that's pretty important. And so we've got another room that stuff can go into. My dispatchers can monitor the cameras or whatever that we're gonna have for the new courthouse. That room's getting small too. So just a heads up that, you know, when you add all that stuff, it takes space.
Sounds like 14 new cameras.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. So that'll be 14 more, well,
Well,
it might be 1 or 2 screens with 7 monitors, you know, pictures on each one. They're already monitoring 25 or 30, so if they miss something, that might be why. So anyway, it just puts a lot of load on it. But they do a good job.
I was thinking they have like infrared, so if like there was a warm body walking through, like turn up red or something. Something to
I don't know.
flag it.
So anyway, that's all I have unless somebody here has questions for me or you folks do.
So Shieldware is kind of, is the office or software to do their paperwork and stuff? Is that what I'm getting?
It would handle all the paperwork at the jail office, civil, criminal, the jail stuff. Handle some of our dispatching. And it's pretty all encompassing. So that's where I'm at. We're holding 4 today, 4 inmates, let one go yesterday, back to Wisconsin. So, yeah.
What are they basically in for?
Judgment and sentence on a second degree, or second offense drunk driving. He's doing some work release time with us. Drug charges,
Are we using work release cells a lot, or?
It cycles, and it seems like when they come in, they're there for 30 days on work release, so we have recently, we've had 2 back-to-back 30-day stint, and I think this guy's doing 10 or 14 days, so, yeah, they get used. They're paying, so.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you. You guys have a good day.
Okay, item 7, County Engineer Broom. Good morning, sir.
No, no sunblock on. Not a whole lot to talk about since I haven't been back today, but, I know the guys are out checking intersections on the snow plows and everything else. I lost my train of thought. So they're out checking roads. We're still working on ER projects with the DOT on the flood stuff yet for federal funds. We're getting projects put together. We're hoping to hit a March letting date. They kind of pushed me back on a project due to, the DOT sent me or said they sent paperwork. I didn't see it in any of my emails or any of the office emails that they had a signed DDIR form that's supposed to act as the project start for these types of projects. They resent it, but I never received it the first time. But we did get it signed up. They're trying to push us back, but I think we can still try to hit a March letting for the guardrail and bridge approach project on 105 northwest of St. Esther, and then also the small patching job north of Meyer. Those are the only 2 that were qualified for federal funds. In addition to that, we're still trying to work on putting projects together for Stillwater Road for patching, and then we might try to tack on some of those patches on Primrose as well. We're debating on whether to add the bridge approach there. Try to figure out a way to smooth that bridge approach on Primrose too. In addition to that, we are still processing the paperwork. We're trying to close out some of the ER funding so we can get some of our FEMA money back. So what they do now is they've taken all of our paperwork to come up with the dollar amounts for what they're going to provide back to us. So now we've got to say, here's what we spent, and still provide them more paperwork. So they've got most of it, but now they want us to reaffirm that they've got it. So we've got to go back through our numbers again and verify what we spent with voided warrants and everything else. So we'll be contacting you to get checks, copies of the checks to put back on. Everything's electronic through FEMA now, so now you gotta scan everything, put it in. I think you can still do it the old-fashioned way, but it takes a little bit longer, so we're working on trying to close out some of these projects in addition to trying to still start some projects. I apologize, I was gonna call you. The
Yeah, I
surveyor
wondered.
started, and I left a message before I left late Tuesday, and I didn't realize Jim wasn't gonna get in until Friday to check messages on calling you. They're not done, so when they come back,
They will be back.
yeah, they will be back, and he's supposed to call and let us know when he comes back.
I'll have another question here when you get done
Okay,
talking, I'll ask.
so with that, we're working on those projects, so we've got what? We've got the 370th Bridge project we're working on right now, we're still working on Lime Kiln, we're working on the ER projects, and we're still working on the FEMA projects. We've got projects,
What's he-
emergency, I can't remember what they are, emergency, I wanna say response, but it's recovery or whatever, it's federal dollars to fix from the flood. So we've got enough projects along with winter and everything else to keep us busy for quite a while. And in addition to that, getting our stuff set up for the shop in San Diego. So,
Any ballpark figure on what it would be if on this, here for salt and sand?
yes.
Or,
Now, that raises another issue with secondary roads competing with private contractors.
We're not, just throw us out a number. If we have to do it, that's what they get charged.
Well, we're not competing?
Nope.
Well, how, I don't wanna be a stick in the mud, I don't wanna make this difficult. But then we're acting as a private contractor to clear, I understand that the county courthouse is working out of this building and they're paying rent, but are we not on private property because you guys are paying for a service?
But part of the service probably sometimes we don't get.
Right, so.
We're not gonna put our Mitchell County people at risk, walking across ice and snow to fall down.
Okay.
When we have a perfect solution, you guys did it last year when we had all
I
that
know,
ice out
I
there.
understand that.
It was great,
We came up with a number and.
that's all we're looking for.
We figured, and from my understanding, for what it would take, because it sounded when I talked, it was only during an ice storm, correct? So we kind of threw out some rough rental rate numbers and things like that, and we just figured it would probably be about $100 an application. Now, the only reason I brought up the private contracting thing is because of other situations that secondary roads can get into with the public about, well, okay, can you do this, and it's really
Well, I
not.
think we're all
That makes
fine with
sense.
private contractors doing it, as long as it gets done in a timely manner, and we don't have to worry about, you know, even at the old courthouse, that one winter, we had 3 people fall.
Now, the old courthouse, being its county property, probably a little different when we want to come in and help.
Right.
But I understand, and I know what's gonna come out of your, I know what you're thinking too.
But I talked to Dave a little bit this morning too, and when we get back to that location, we're gonna have the sheriff's parking lot, we'll have our parking lot, parking lot of the county services. You know, it might be such a thing, now he's got the truck, it might be such a time that he should get a spreader, and he can put those applications down when he needs to.
That's the number we came up with, and it just, I was kind of hesitant on, because of that code section, and I can't remember which one it is, but we can't really compete with private contractors, because we can always do it cheaper, we're not for profit. So, but
It's just a,
Did you meet with the landlord about that?
Yeah, and that's what we wanted, was an idea of how much.
Because Farm Bureau, I was at the meeting and they had asked me about that as far as part of our contract. I said, I know, we expect the landlord to do it first, but in worst case scenario.
right, and that's.
For safety and
Yeah.
liability.
So the landlord's gonna either look at doing it privately or doing something himself.
This would be a bill back. If we had to, we would bill back.
And for us, safety trumps cost.
And that's fine, it's not, it doesn't, to me, it has nothing to do with cost so much as, do I get, you know, does a private contractor say, well, why don't you hire me, I can do it sooner? And why, you know, I guess the angle I'm looking at is a private contractor can come in and say, well, you know, I can do it for profit.
Yeah.
And you guys are bidding me out because you own forces. Anyway, but we did use,
You could do that on the bridge project.
what's that?
You know, Some counties have bridge crews.
But we're talking public-owned property versus private, so.
Alright.
Anyway, if you want, I can give you what I scratched out on paper for rental, but I can email it to you too.
Thank you.
That's all we wanted.
Yeah, so that's what he kind of came up with, and I figured that was reasonable. I mean, I could have thrown out a huge number there, but I didn't think it was reasonable to overestimate what it
Just
was
like
gonna
Shannon
take.
said, it's gonna be a worst case scenario.
Right.
Right.
You know, we're not.
You're expecting the landlord to follow through on his obligations,
Right.
but if it gets
Okay.
crazy.
No, that's fine, and I just wanted to make it clear that I don't want to be in competition with private. I got one phone call about, I had 2 phone calls about snow routes and where we're at. Nobody wants to be last, everybody wants to be first. I think putting the shut-up standards will help some of our issues with hard surface roads and how things are routed. I had a phone call about, elderly people on gravels that have health issues, and maybe you've got that phone call. And what I told the individual was, when there's an emergency, whether it's the ambulance, fire trucks can't get down the road, when we get called, we go. I know there was one issue, or it wasn't an issue really, I don't remember which county I was in, whether it was here or there, but we had an issue where there was a fire truck trying to get down the gravel road, and I remember the operator said, well, I'm about done here on this one. I said, no, you're done now, and you turn around and go. I mean, we'll leave a pile of snow in the way, and I know it's a safety thing, but I think there's a bigger safety issue when you can't get a fire truck down the road for a fire. So what I told the individual that called me was, we'll do everything we can to get somebody there when we get the call. So I don't want to start changing routes, because there's a lot of people with health problems that live out, and we can't cater to everybody. And the only thing we can do is do our best to get there as soon as we can. Worst case scenario is the foreman takes his pickup and a plow to push it through, or the foreman jumps in a dump truck. Whoever's available jumps in a truck, whether it's gravel or hard surface, and you just go. I mean, I'll take the closest individual that's, whether it's a motor grader or a dump truck, whether it's hard surface or gravel, that piece of equipment's gonna go. So just, we've been getting a couple, well, we got one phone call, I'm sure we get one every year, but,
That was my person, I didn't know the answer, so.
Well, and that's-
then I'll give him that answer. for
I told him on the phone, because he had called me, and I told him, I said, we'll do our best, but we really aren't gonna change routes to accommodate, because that's just, we can have everybody call for anything.
No, if you do that once, you're gonna be changing routes weekly.
Well, and that's what I told the other individual about, because the hard surface is on the tail end of the route, that, yeah, our road looks terrible, because Floyd County gets it first. They've got a shop closer than we do, and it's on the farthest reach of any one of our shops that it ends up being last. It's just the nature of the beast, maybe,
I thought my road was last.
Well, you can't please everybody.
My road's been good.
Don't you know the engineer?
One that worked on.
Yeah, one of our work guys.
I didn't buy him a Christmas present, see what happens.
Don't do that. You have a question?
I do. After the surveyor is done, are you going to come out and start removing any of the rock at all this winter? So
I'm not
when we have our
positive.
flooding this next spring, it's not gonna go into my pasture again?
I'm not positive that we'll be able to get anybody down there. A lot of that fine material is probably already frozen because it got cold. Whether we can get anything out to reestablish that channel or not.
I don't know
I
any
doubt it.
fine material out.
Well, the further away from where that scoured out, when you get down to that creek bed, it's a lot more sandier. The larger material gets deposited close, and then
Right,
as
yeah.
the water stretches.
Are you gonna move any of the larger material?
I don't
So
know
that-
if we can get anybody out there in time, and if it runs through the pasture, right now, you've already been damaged, you haven't done any
Well,
improvements yet, right?
No,
Out in your
because I'm
pasture.
waiting for you to
Right.
decide what's gonna happen.
Right, so, how do I wanna, if it were to flood this spring and run through the pasture, are you gonna incur any more damages than what you've
I'm
already
sure
had?
we will. I'm sure we will. So I'm thinking, do I go lawyer? I wanna work with you, I don't wanna go get a lawyer right now, but
We'll do what we can to get down there, but when things are frozen, and I know that you've been patiently waiting for us to get down there.
trying.
But,
Some days it's not easy.
I
but,
know,
you
I understand, but we'll do what we can, and I don't know, maybe there's a chance we can get a contractor down there this winter to do something. But I need to know where that survey is, so I know where our boundaries are.
Right. Yeah, I didn't know he'd even been there, and I saw tracks, and then my husband
Yep.
said, well, I think it was a surveyor
Yeah,
there,
I
and I
intended
said,
to call you.
well, Rich was supposed
Yes,
to call me,
yes,
I
yes,
was
yes.
cussing you out,
Yep.
and,
And it was just got too late for anybody to get out there to give you a call. It was just, I was gone and so was Jim, so nobody else had that information, so. We'll give you a call when he comes back. I'll give him.
all right.
Anything else for the engineer? All right, thank you, Tammy. Minutes, we all had a copy of the minutes. Does anybody have any issues, corrections, deletions?
I'll second the motion.
Been moved and seconded for the discussion. Hearing none, vote Leonard.
Aye.
Hollis.
Aye.
Roth, aye, motion carried. Item 9, Bridges mentoring budget request.
Morning.
Morning.
How are you all?
Good.
Kristen?
Good. Everybody signed a copy of the letter, do you need that one? Okay. I guess I'd like to start, just like the letter says, to thank you guys for the office space that we've been using. It's worked out really, really well for us. Just the space and having some people in there like Brenda and Jessica to talk to is super helpful. We really enjoy it. A lot of people like that it's just a neutral location. You know, there were a lot of people that didn't even know we were in the basement of our Saviors. So now, as we're getting the word around that we're in a neutral location at the building goes by so many different names, but I go by whatever people want to call it. So it's worked out really great for us. So the reason why I'm here today is I am requesting some funding support from Mitchell County. We've been in Mitchell County now for 15 years. And I don't remember if in the past we have ever requested for any funding through the county.
I don't recall any.
Okay, so I guess here I am, new program coordinator, coming to you guys. I really feel strongly about the business mentoring program being supported by Mitchell County because we do support all of the school districts here in the county. We work with the schools, we work with volunteers here, with businesses, banks, everybody that we can. So it'd be great to be able to bring about how we have the county support as well. So what I requested for, right now, with what our budget is and the number of matches that we have active, it boils down to being $1,000 a match if you supported a match from year to year. So what I thought was a good idea was maybe supporting, sponsoring, so to speak, one match in each school district, which would end up being $3,000. I'm definitely flexible with it, but that was just kind of a starting point. I did contact Sarah Gordo, for example. We work with the youth task force there, and they have the one-on-one mentoring. They're supported $4,000 from Sarah Gordo, and we have similar amounts of matches. So it was just kind of a starting point when we've not requested funding in the past.
Starting the 6th of January, we will be working on budgets. This type of request comes in under what we call the 99s. And we do not have a schedule, I don't think, set up yet, do we, Will, for?
Yeah, I got one
Oh,
yesterday, I didn't, you get it brought along,
okay.
but I can go get one.
But we will not act on it today. We will put it in with the rest of them. And we normally see where our departments come out first. And then we see what disposable income, I suppose, for lack of a better word, is left. And then we take a look at the 99s, the various requests from, and see if we can, how much we can do it, at that point in time. You're more than welcome to come and make a case again at that time too. When we always post when all of these departments and meetings are held. So there will be something for, like I say, the 99s. You're more than welcome to come at that time and also make a request. Otherwise, we do have, the information here. It's not necessary. And,
Sure.
No, it's, you do good work.
Thanks. We work hard, so.
How many hours do you put in, how many hours are you at the building there?
Well, right now, because I don't have that second position filled, I'm putting in 40 hours a week. But once that position is, we just posted it actually the end of last week, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed to have another person hired, probably the beginning of February. That person will be between 15 and 20 hours a week, and then I'll probably be between 25 and 30 hours a week. So we're looking at 50 to 55 total hours to run the program.
So you're there
A lot.
pretty much,
I'm there Monday through Friday.
yep.
Wednesdays I leave the office a little early, but back when Gary was in the other position, she was there on Wednesdays when I wasn't. So we're there pretty much a normal week. I'm more productive when I work at an office, Joel, so I try to stay there as much as possible.
Okay.
Are you meeting all the matches? I mean, do you have a waiting list, or are we covering everyone?
We have a waiting list all the time. I know towards the end of last year's school year, we had women mentors who were waiting, and we didn't have any we didn't have any girls on the Osage waiting list, so I did have to call the school, and I got a ridiculously long list. So I started calling, and I got everybody matched. It was probably 6 women, but now, because of that, I have girls who are on the waiting list again. And every time that I talk to the schools, they say, I could give you a list on a monthly basis if you wanted it, but I don't want it, because they don't have enough mentors, unfortunately, to match everybody. But we're thinking about doing a campaign, well, we are gonna do it, but we're in the process of developing a campaign starting the beginning of the year that talks about how easy it is to be a mentor and how little amount of time it takes, and we're hoping that out of that we get a lot of people who are interested in becoming new mentors. So we have some people who mentor for 10 plus years, no names. And people like Lowell come back and get a second child, but we have some who it's just not the time for them anymore. So as those people step down from mentoring, we need new people to replace them, and that's what we're not getting right now.
And do most of them go through high school? I mean, once they're matched, do they go till they graduate?
A lot of them do. Once they get into high school, it's a little tougher because they're in more activities, or they're getting older and their friends or boyfriends, girlfriends are more important. But we try to keep them in the mentoring program through all of their high school. So we have a lot. We had last year at the end of May, we had 7 who graduated out of the program. It's pretty awesome. So. Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time. I guess I'll talk to you, Lowell, about if I need to come back or not.
Sure, yep, sure.
All right.
Okay, thank you. Ken, we have a check.
Thanks for your
Oh, okay. Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yep. Item 10 is approved placing $16,341.29 in the capital acquisition, land acquisition and capital improvement fund.
This be our last one,
Thanks.
because now we're just gonna recognize them. They already been done, right?
Well, no, this would not necessarily be our last one. Cans for Conservation was the one
we
that
talked
we,
about.
I mean, they do have the other fund for like dam repair and so forth. So yeah, this
This is
wouldn't
different.
necessarily be, yeah.
I'll make a motion to put $16,341.29 into the land acquisition and capital improvement fund for conservation.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded, further discussion. Hearing none, Claus.
Aye.
Volkeimer.
Aye.
Ross, aye, motion carried. We've discussed number 11, number 12, valuations report.
I have a question, I'm sorry. On that cans for conservation, you're gonna give me a thing that just blanket cans for conservation? Or you're giving me a thing that I can just deposit money off, no matter what I get from this,
What-
county conservation?
What we
fund?
basically said, here's what was happening is, let's say, last Wednesday, they gave us a check from the Redemption Center. Well, last Tuesday night was County Conservation's meeting. Well, then, that check would sit there until they would meet, they would approve of it, then they'd send it to our board meeting, which, could be 5 or 6 weeks before it would get deposited. And so it's always, the checks from the Can Redemption was always to go to cans for conservation, because that's what it is. And so we voted last month, and their board did last week, that instead of having the board approve of it, we made one approval that anything for cans for conservation can go right into their,
Okay, so it's just cans for conservation.
Right.
Any other kind of deposits still, except for that Mitchell Dam, have to go through. So I'm gonna need one that's just like this, that says cans for conservation. To be a blanket one, just like I have that for that dam.
okay.
Okay,
A resolution then, basically.
yeah, one of those slips, yeah, one of those slips go out.
So will you get Adam to do that, Lowell, or do you have to do that, or?
They have to do it.
They
They have to do that,
yeah.
okay. Will you contact Adam then?
Yeah.
Okay, yep,
Thank you.
sure. Okay, Barb?
I bring good news.
Good for you.
With property tax reform bill happening this year, we're kind of wondering how the valuations were gonna turn out. But actually, we are showing an increase again this year of $34,766,806. Part of the reason for the increase is we had that equalization of 9% on commercial property, so we had to increase that valuation, and also ag land, which I just got off the state's website, showed a value increase of 2011, our land was $7,000 an acre, and in 2012 it jumped to $9,123 an acre. So that's also increasing our valuation.
So we should be in fairly decent shape then going into the
Budget.
into the budget.
It's always good to hear.
So it's under normal budget years. Would you suspect that we will be able to do any decrease in the levy, or basically just stay flat, or?
I think we can stay flat for sure. We might be able to decrease.
Of course, like I said, it all depends on what all comes up on
Right,
it.
and water wants money.
We
All the 99.
Yeah, all the 99.
Any questions for Barb on valuations?
I don't, but thanks for the good news.
I'll come to class later.
Okay, yep.
Okay, items of note. Meetings attended.
I had that MC landfill meeting last Tuesday night, really to continue with our office remodel out there. And we're going to put 6 acres in CRP, but I think we're gonna cancel that contract, and we're just gonna put the erodible land into permanent hay ground, and possibly let somebody take 2 cuttings of the year. That way we can control, we can drive across it, we can do what we need to do with it, and not have to get, you know, that $1,500 of federal funds. Make or break us out there, and we'll get something that way. So that was part of our discussion. And then we had our HERP meeting down in Tama, and one of the issues that we had, and I should have made copies of this, but the current property values, you remember I told you what, you know, all this past summer I went around with the fellow from Gallagher, and we did an assessment of all the buildings Mitchell County owns. A number of our buildings, like for instance, say the annex, current HERP value is $80,000. The current premium is $262. Gallagher Bassett's value on that building is $680,000, and the current premium would be $2,231. You go down the whole list of our county services, we're right at $700,000 on that, but their value is $750,000. and there's only like $200 difference in the premium. Engineer's office, we got 75,000 on that, they are saying it's 148,000, and so about double the premium, 246. Well, what it got to is that the board voted to, if the counties want to take and increase the values that they put on them, there'll be no increase in premiums until July 1. HERC will cover the extra. Or, but if you decrease it, they're not gonna give you back money, you know. But we just thought that that would be a way that we could probably, you know, help out the counties, because some of the stuff, radio towers, $25,000 we have on it, it's $115,000 probably gonna be to replace it, so we have $82 in premium, it should be $377. Radio towers are a big, and the fellow was there, that's one of the biggest problems when they have storms and stuff, those radio towers get hit all the time with lightning and whatever, but, and we had to see the one at Stacyville, and St. Ansgar radio towers, you know, or Stacyville is 17,000, it should be 120,000. We're paying $56 premium and we, you know, 394. So the difference between our current premiums and stuff is 21,000, and she bumped it up to 32,000. I'll give you guys a copy of all this, but this is Mitchell County's, you know.
So right now, you're saying we're underinsured by about $4 million?
Yep. According to their assessments, I mean, that they did.
Well, basically, we cannot act on that today, but,
Well, I'll give you, everybody a copy of this.
Yes.
You guys need to look at that, and maybe we could, you know, even like the Nature Center is, currently it's 645, we're overinsured on that. But their value is only 641, it's only 4,000 difference, but.
I'm gonna say though, I mean, it would be right in that 650,000 to rebuild it, so yeah, I mean.
That's probably the only one that's close. I mean, the county care is.
That's covering the new addition they put on it.
Yep, county care is current value, we got 700,000 on it, but to replace it is $1.6 million.
That might be low.
You want to add $3,000 to that, if it blows away? I don't know, that's why I'll give you guys a copy, and we can put it on for next week and discuss it a bit further, you know. Anyway, that was some of that. And then, we did discuss, you remember we talked a little bit about, injury and illness report that last time, you know, we had our meeting about the guy walking across the parking lot and fell, and then they kind of self-incriminated themselves with the questions they had for the, well, they come up with this. The board down there has not acted on it yet, but this is an accident investigation report that they're thinking about having Heartland counties use. And so I guess they gave it that to look at, and I guess I can take it and give it to the insurance, like Pam and Claudia, see if they get their input, and then you guys, I'll make you guys a copy of that too, but interesting anyway, so that was my views.
Shannon?
I met with the Farm Bureau, they just had a lot of questions, like the snow removal, just odds and ends, very interesting. And then I was sick for the rest of the week, so I did not make it to the public officer
How are you
training.
feeling today?
Much better, thank
Good,
you.
thanks.
County conservation, basically, it's now able to be public information that the Garretts that own an interest in the generators are wanting to sell their interest. One of them has died, and the family, the heirs would like to get out of it. So county conservation may be wanting to buy the generators. And I've been working a little bit with Adam on that. more information can be forthcoming, but again, if you folks want to go out and talk to Adam yourself, get some handles on what would be involved. A lot of those generators apparently last 60, 70, 80 years. Basically, it's the bearings that can wear out, if not the... So that the big question really gets to be, would Interstate Power continue to offer a rate for the electricity? I mean, because you could buy them and Interstate Power could say, I'm not interested. I mean, that really is part of the... So the other thing that they are starting to look at again is, you know, Claudia is planning on retiring in April or May, somewhere in that neighborhood. And do they do somebody full-time, part-time? I would really, I don't know if we can really justify both trying to go full-time. I mean,
They could probably use full-time on it with the secondary road.
Oh, yeah.
Because there are sometimes there's
You would think they could easily find somebody that would want to work 20 hours a week out there.
well,
It's hard to.
but is that
There's
somebody,
a lot.
you got the one gal that works part-time here, I mean, could that be been a full-time from here to there? I
it'd be
mean,
your decision to apply.
well, I mean, you're gonna have a hard time finding really good people for part-time work. I mean, that aren't older or, you know,
You mean over departments, maybe we'd have enough hours to get a full-time position filled, but keep her for
Something
you
fun
guys.
to think about, yeah. I know I've talked to Rich about it before too, and, you know, he said that there's probably enough out there that they could easily use a full-time person, especially now with Jim. You know, Jim, how many years is it gonna be for him to retire?
He's been in over 30 years.
Right. I mean,
Here's the case where they were both gone last week.
Right.
And Claudia does a lot of stuff that, and she's gonna be in a position where you're gonna have one person leave that has to be replaced by two. I mean, she does a lot of things that there's a lot of,
Well, anyway, I have to work with the engineer and Adam and see how things, what they want to do.
yeah, so that was that meeting. Second judicial, we basically took a look at budgets. We're operating on a little less money this fiscal year than we did last year. I mean, state, again, done some cutting. Number of positions haven't been filled yet, and that's when Mark Kuhn and I kind of looked at each other and we said, well, you know, if you can get by with 9 months not filling a position, did you really need it? I mean, that always gets to be my question.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, how do you get by 9 months and not fill a position and it was really a necessary position? And either it's necessary or it isn't. I mean, it's just that simple to me. Maybe I'm wrong, but
Either that or somebody's working overtime.
yeah.
you're not getting paid for it.
Yeah.
But I mean, but then you're not saving money neither. I mean, that was the whole thing on that. Then in the afternoon, early afternoon, I met, we had a conference call. Brenda was coming back from the Twin Cities. I was at Black Hill's office in Webster City, and we had a conference call on gas lines going forward on that. 4 o'clock, we had a legislative forum in Fort Dodge. It was a follow-up to what we had, you know, with Senator Beal. And somewhere along the line here, I did throw that, yeah. Basically, Senator Beal, Senator Dotzler, and Senator Sodders. Those are the 3 key people in the Senate that work on economic development areas of the state law. And so enterprise zone is also not only TIF, but and the project that we would like to have with the replacement tax that Brenda's trying to, you know, get legislative drafted. Enterprise zone is going to be up for renewal here this coming year. And it would be good for all of us to send, they got their email addresses, I put a copy of this on each of your desks, to send each of these guys an email explaining that, first of all, the big cities are continually qualified for enterprise zone status. Mason City, like I say, that's always an enterprise zone, where we have to apply and only 25% of the counties out here. Yet again, we're the ones that have a hard time accessing money, and the bigger cities with all of their industry and that have an easier time, and like I say, they're given the benefits. And so that's something I think that should be pointed out. The other thing of it is that I really wanted to make an issue of is, you know, we have some enterprise zones over at Riceville, we had some at Stacyville, St. Ansgar here, Orchard. Basically, for the spec housing, in order to qualify for benefits, you have to build either 4 spec houses, 1 duplex in a spec house, or 2 duplexes. Basically, in a town like Stacyville or Riceville that is smaller than that, at least on our side of the whatever, to do 4 spec houses in one town of that size, pretty much bankers are not going to normally say go ahead and here's $700,000, $800,000 for spec houses. But yet again, if we could allow in the smaller communities that, okay, Stacyville is a zone, St. Ansgar is a zone, Osage is a zone, that and Riceville is a zone, that we could build spec houses in any one of these zones and qualify for the 4. That really makes a lot more sense, and you're going to have builders then that are going to be more willing to try to do that type of program.
Makes sense.
Makes sense, and so that's something to encourage these 3. And it's also really, we should encourage them that there shouldn't be a limit of counties that qualify. Every county should really qualify for a little bit of their land to be part of this enterprise zone, because that's really the tools that have attracted a lot of the industry here in Mitchell County, is because of the enterprise zone. And if we didn't have that tool, I don't care how much other stuff we can do, it isn't enough to attract industry. And yet again, there's value for us to bring industry here. I mean, it helps your Main Street, it helps your churches, it helps your schools, it helps everything else. And so I think we really have to hit on that pretty hard.
I got a question, Sam.
Yes.
Like an enterprise zone, could they do it based on school district then?
No, I don't ever see that they're gonna base it on school districts, because it's basically county by county.
That would be Grafton and Stacyville and St. Ansgar all together.
But within a county though, I mean, it's the county board of well, not the county board of supervisors. Does happen to be 2 supervisors on the enterprise zone, it's both Joel and I. And, but it's made up of, what is it, 9 people, 7, 8, I don't remember right offhand. But there's different qualifications. Some people have to be part of an economic development, some...
Joel's for workforce.
Yeah, here's for workforce. There's different qualifications on how people get to sit on that board. And then that board, like I say, determines the size of the zones and if initially approves any benefits for industry in that. But,
Any changes too.
yeah, any changes too.
So if we email them, could we like present that, like, maybe there should be a special for a population of under 11,000 for a county? Would we be allowed to spread that buildings out or something? Would that be a good angle to say?
Well, even under 20,000 or something like
Right.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was just thinking, because that's, you know, it makes sense. The county, our county population is smaller than some cities in the bigger counties.
Well, and they had Calhoun County was one down there that was really why the program was really important, necessary, and I thought they'd done a good job, but they say that the other thing to mention to these 3 people, they're very big on having Mary Jo Wilhelm as part of their Senate majority or whatever else, and so it doesn't hurt to do a little name dropping there too, that she's our senator and we're working with her and so forth. So, like I say, that's always a plus when you're doing your emails. So those were my meetings. Building values, we went through that. Anything else for the good of the cause?
No, just give you a copy of what the courthouse officers came up with holidays for next year, so, for your information, it's right here.
We'll act on it next week. As always, I keep on saying that I just assume that we be here on President's Day, give the employees an extra flex day or whatever, I mean, at their choice, but,
We just want to be consistent the way we've done every year,
but that's,
because it's either that or it's Martin Luther King Day.
we don't have to do either. We can, like I say, it's up to the Board of Supervisors to make that decision, so.
No, it's up to the officers. It's in our policy, it is the courthouse officers come up with these. And that's what we've done every year.
The Code of Iowa says that the courthouse will be open by the Board of Supervisors. You guys can determine when the office hours of your offices. That's the
But it
Code of Iowa.
also, but it also says the Code of Iowa lists those days as holidays. Those are appointed holidays
For the state.
for counties too. Why would you change something that's been that way? The public has been consistent and known it's been President's Day for years, ever since you and I've been here, Stan. Not to say that you can't change something, but there's no banks, there's no post office. Otherwise, I know you got a lot of holidays this time of year, but if you eliminate that and
Then why are we voting, why are we as supervisors voting on it if it's all set for us?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
If it's all set for us, why are we voting on it? And if it isn't set for us, what?
Oh, probably because they wanna get paid for those days. And we approved budgets.
No, but.
I don't care.
But you know what I'm saying, look, for the people that have only two weeks of vacation, that extra flex day might be a very good one for them.
Well, the employees are all good with this. Department heads asked them and they like that. We go through this every year.
Well, that's fine.
Well, I'm
We'll
looking
make that
forward.
decision next week.
Okay, there we go.
It's not state resident. It's not state resident.
Okay, that's all that is?
That's it.
Okay.
Mr. Mady, have a minute.